Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a fabulous weekend. An exciting weekend for me. I did a really quite a long bushwalk yesterday along the coast, which was great. I didn't get to see any whales though, so that was disappointing, as there was lots of whales out there yesterday. Exciting week for me this week, as it's my birthday, and I always look forward to what the new birthday year will hold. So keep an eye out. I might be doing something later in the week for that. Thanks for all the wonderful feedback last week on the topic of diarrhea for the last month. It's a condition that we don't really talk about very much, and sadly a lot of people are suffering with it. I had lots of people reach out and say that they'd had a bout of food poisoning or a bout of gastro once when they were away somewhere, and they haven't been well since. So know that you're not alone in this, and I can certainly help you recover quickly from these sorts of things when you get that post-infectious IBS. So I'm Ange Sinclair, and I'm the Digestive Detective. This month, the new topics will be, there's two topics this month. The first one's going to be on IBS for the first 2 weeks, or Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and the last 2 weeks are going to be on small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO for short. So let's get to Irritable Bowel Syndrome, or IBS as we commonly refer to it. My mouth doesn't work properly this morning. So it is thought to affect at least 12 to 15% of the Australian population. So that's quite a lot. So what is IBS in the broad scheme of things? So IBS, or Irritable Bowel Syndrome, is defined as a group of functional bowel disorders in which abdominal discomfort or pain is associated with defecation or a change in bowel habit and features of disordered defecation. So that's a mouthful, isn't it? So basically it's diagnosed by a special criteria called the Rome 4 criteria. Now, so the Rome 4 criteria always presumes that you have no structural or biomechanical explanation for the symptoms you're having. So to fit this Rome 4 criteria, you must have the presence of recurrent abdominal pain or discomfort, and it has to have been present for at least 3 months. The symptoms are at least 3 days a month, including the pain needs to be relieved by defecation, and an onset associated with change in frequency of stool, or an onset associated in change in form or appearance of the stool. So you might have a normal bowel movement and then go to diarrhea. So you might also have other signs and symptoms like urgency, incomplete evacuation, abdominal extension, and passage of mucus. And generally, I don't always see doctors diagnosing IBS by the Rome criteria. Sometimes it's just like, well, we don't actually know what's wrong with you, so you've got IBS. That's not necessarily good. If you ever see blood in your stool, you must go to the doctor for a trip to investigate. So IBS is a really frustrating condition because no two cases are the same, which makes it really difficult. So it's really a multifaceted condition that differs from person to person. So many theories about why it differs from one person to the next. Alterations to gut flora is a big theory, because we know for sure that gut flora and gut bacteria is disrupted in IBS. Medications like the oral contraceptive pill, antibiotics, NSAIDs, so pain killers, psychological stress, physiological stress, a poor diet, physical stress, infection of the GIT, all these things are thought to play a part. So one of the things for me that I see a lot, infection. So infection really may increase the risk of IBS due to the disruption of the good bacteria. It also causes mucosal inflammation and damage of that mucosa as well. I tend to see people who have had what we talked about before. They've been sick and never been well since. That can go on to lead to IBS as well. I always think about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth with people that have IBS, because about 70 to 80% of people with IBS also have SIBO. And I see this often from the people I talk about, with the infection stuff. I think it's quite prevalent that people have gone away on holiday somewhere, got a bout of gastro, never been better since, and that's quite common. And that can be years old, 20 or 30 years old for some people. So visceral hypersensitivity is another thing, and that's a big word, just to say that you're more susceptible to pain. So people with IBS have a much lower pain threshold, and they have much more awareness around what's happening in their gut and in their stomach. So these people are generally worse for stress and worse for physiological factors. So another issue with IBS, so about 80% of our serotonin is made in our gut. So having an altered serotonin signaling can give us IBS. So serotonin stimulates our enteric nervous system for peristalsis. So peristalsis is the way that our bowel moves. So too much serotonin can cause diarrhea, and not enough can cause constipation. So it's about finding that fine balance. And I think people who don't are not eating a nutrient fiber-rich diet will often suffer from serotonin issues because they're just not feeding their gut bacteria that they need to make those neurotransmitters. So food sensitivities or FODMAPs. Many people can get gut symptoms after eating certain foods. Food sensitivity and IBS, though, a little bit like the chicken and the egg scenario. Which one comes first? Is it the is it the food intolerance or is it the IBS? So when people are cutting out FODMAPs for 12 weeks or longer, I think they're likely doing this unnecessarily. For most people, they have a few problems with some of the FODMAP categories, but not necessarily all of them. So long-term FODMAP diet without appropriate supervision from a nutritionist or a dietitian that specializes in FODMAP can really cause the bacteria in your colon to starve. So seek help around this. I see many people that have been on restrictive diets like FODMAPs for 5 years. This is not doing your large intestines any favor, so don't do it. And lastly, the thing that I see more often than not is dysregulation of our gut and brain connection. So something's happening. We know that the gut and the brain are connected via our enteric nervous system through our second brain, and that's through our fight or flight response. So stress and our vagus nerve. So stress has a really big impact on our gut function. Have you ever had a situation where you're about to do a big talk and you get butterflies in your stomach, or people will say it's been gut wrenching? So that implies that there's a connection there between our gut and our brain. So stress in IBS often leads to overstimulation of this fight or flight response, and basically we can't turn it off as well as we need to, and that interferes with the way we digest our food, and it causes pain and affects our pain level, and also it alters our bowel motility. So you can see there are quite a few things to work through, quite a few causes that it could be from IBS, to work through to find what your root cause is. So this is a question I ask all the time. Do you think you have IBS? Have you been told that by a doctor? Some people I see that have been told that, and they get here and they don't actually have IBS. They just have something that nobody's ever thought to check. So do you need some direction? So keep tuning into my lives over the next few weeks to find out some strategies you can do to manage your IBS. If you're really struggling and feel like you can't get your IBS under control, book in for a free 15-minute call, and you can do this on my website. So the link is above this video for Facebook. It's in the Insta bio, and it'll be in the comments of LinkedIn. So have a that's all, folks. My brain's really struggling today. Have a fabulous day. See you tomorrow at 9:30 for Transformation Tuesday. I look forward to it. Enjoy the day. Bye.